think that was my cue. So good morning, everyone. My name is 𝗏𝗃𝗧𝗧. Thank you for spending the next 45 minutes with us. Really excited to talk about this topic. I lead Microsoft's worldwide public sector solutions team, which means nothing to you, but really means to us is really technology helping governments with the business and the mission that they need to do every day on that piece of it from a global perspective. I've been with the company for a little over 11 years, but I joined after 20 years working in government. So this is really exciting times, not just the last 2.5, 3 years with agentic AI, but even predating that, like the evolution of cloud technology, what it means for governments around the world. So we're gonna spend time today covering off on that, and making it real, then hopefully have enough time at the end to do some Q&A with the panelists and myself. So we'll talk a little bit about becoming frontier. It's our phrase on that portion of it, but how is technology really helping governments around the world transform what they do on the day-to-day, not just internally, but what they do externally for the citizen-facing services. We're gonna hear from Mike on the city and county of San Francisco and the work he's been doing there, which is really cool, and thanks for hosting us for this conference. I'll walk through a couple of examples from global customers where technology really is doing some phenomenal things and what it means from a utility and capability point on that portion of it. Then we're gonna hear from Andrew for the city of Raleigh and some of the work they're doing around GIS and geospatial and the fidelity you get from that portion of it. And then some next steps, lessons learned, and then we'll try and do the Q&A on that piece of it. So let's start with this part here, right? So every government, we think about the demographic pressures of, even like climate change, the forcing of extreme heat, extreme storms, severity, frequency, pushing people for migratory patterns to north, south, where it might be less extreme. Economic pressure, there's still, everyone's struggling with post-pandemic, the debt that came out of that. How do you work through those things? And obviously, depending on what country you're in now, some of the economic pressures that everyone's feeling on that piece of it. What does it look like, right? So OECD has their study there. You'll see that reference to an aging population. There's some countries around the world that the population and birth rates aren't going to support the aging population. So what does that mean for governments, right? It's going to put a lot more stress on the social care, social services for those that are retired, and the next generation having that burden. What's government's role in that context and working through that piece of it? Legacy systems and technical debt, like this consumes a lot of time for everyone, whether you're in the private sector or in the government space. Those from mainframes to on-prem environments to hybrid to cloud, it's complex, right? And sometimes that can be a burden, right? It's gonna prevent you from doing some of the modern capabilities because you're beholden to that legacy debt that's not really fit for purpose anymore. We gotta find that balance, right, of how do you maximize and optimize what you've invested for in your CapEx outlays with an eye towards kind of the near-term and long-term future and how this actually plays out in that piece of it. The budget and the workforce, kind of touched on that already as far as, the reduced environment of workers, how do we actually optimize their capability, the ability to do their jobs more effectively day to day? I got into government service because I wanted to help communities and have a positive outcome and affect what I could as a civil servant. How do we optimize and create that efficiency for them with technology so they're not just bound by all the mundane and kind of the administrative tasks and actually feel good about what they're delivering? And then cybersecurity. My last 4 years, I was with the federal government. I led teams that did data breach investigations, and our cyber criminals were typically overseas. Very hard operational environment to track them down, hold them responsible, take months, if not years, on that piece of it. This is an all hands on deck for everyone. It absolutely is a public-private partnership engagement, and it has to work with your vendors on that piece of it because it's so pervasive. And then if you think about agentic AI and where the novelty of our side and how we use it, your adversaries are using it at scale now. You got to fight force with force on that piece of it. So for us as a company, huge investment, a lot of deep expertise. If you haven't attended any of our cybersecurity sessions here this week, I encourage you to or look online or talk to a Microsoft person about that because it really is critical and important. It is being used heavy in this IDC last year. If you're familiar with the Smart City Expo World Congress event in Barcelona, 13 months ago, they issued a study just kind of about the state of agentic AI. And they had a time frame about like 2023 and 2024 was kind of the scramble. Like society got exposed to this through like OpenAI. What is this? We all had curiosity. Then that curiosity quickly turned into what's the utility of this? How does this actually mean for businesses and for governments, and how do we use that piece of it? And they kind of had a lens towards 27 and beyond where governments are going to adopt this technology. That 2027 is 2025 and 2026. From what we're seeing, all the signals and all the conversations we're having around the world, it's been pretty phenomenal to see this adoption across the globe on that piece of it. The responsiveness, 67%. I think the advancements in technology, and especially with translation, and when you think about your IVR, your chatbots, the ability to have self-service portals for your citizens, regardless of what language is spoken, what country you're in, that opportunity, whether it's social care, social services, somebody just needs for tourism and they need some waypoints, like the ability to reach them where they're at is awesome, right? And some major advancements in that piece of it, and some really cool capabilities for us, like out of the Middle East, Europe, Southeast Asia, North America. Like it's just something that's been really pervasive across the globe. And that last portion there, if anyone here is working in the government space, government's always been a giant target for cybersecurity for obvious reasons. Think about critical infrastructure, you think about all the PII and the information data you have. That stuff is being harvested and collected consistently, whether it's for financial gain or for you want to disrupt a country. We certainly saw this in Ukraine ahead of Russia's invasion, where they were just hitting Ukrainian systems with wiper malware, trying to soften that target before they send in ground troops and stuff. And that's really kind of the new threatscape on that piece of it. And again, your public-private partnership with your IT vendors on that is really critical on that piece. So when we think about Frontier, right, so there's obviously the employee piece of it, and this is our reputation as a company, right? We're the office company, and we use our tools and that capability, but what this really is for me is like, how do you free up? Like we all get overloaded with emails, and we have chats from different platforms, and how do you synthesize that and carve through that and not have to read each one? And can I get a summary of like those email chains that like you're the fifth or sixth person, that thing is giant and really long. Can I just get a quick snapshot of that? Do I need to pay attention, or what's the morsel of information I need out of that? And move on from that piece of it. Like how do we get rid of some of that administrative burden? I think that's really the exciting time here with agentic AI and some of the work that we've been doing as a company on that portion of it. That citizen engagement, I kind of touched on that already, that gets me more excited. This is beyond like Copilot and Copilot Studio. This is more about AI Foundry and Azure OpenAI Services and other capabilities where you're embedding through a partner or directly, depending on your size of your agency, to really deliver that next iteration of capability on that piece of it. And I'll show a video a little bit later on permitting and what that might look like. Government processes, it's very linear, it follows a structured process. Like, how can we disrupt that? How can we optimize, automate? We talk about agents and having human-led agent teams and working through that stuff. And we're still early days, but starting to see those engagements where multiple agents report to an orchestration agent that reports to a human. You're starting to see that capability of really starting to do some really cool things. If you think about a public works department or utility department, things that have a supply chain or common processes and common flows, how can you implement and develop that for a really truly immersive citizen experience with very little, if no human intervention on that piece of it? And then bending to the curve, right? What does that actually mean for any agency on that portion of it? Maybe a little bit disruption, really from top down, bottom up, and everywhere in between. What does AI mean in that environment? What does agentic AI mean in that environment for your day-to-day on that piece of it? So employee experience portion of it. So for me, the repetitive tasks, I already touched on that. Case management, my 20 years was in a law enforcement function, wrote a lot of reports, and that was, took a lot of my time. I think the estimate for law enforcement in the US for frontline police officers, about 60% of their time spent writing reports. There is an opportunity, especially with the advent of body-worn cameras, and you can put in here social care providers, social workers. If you're having interviews and doing stuff at home, or there's a recording, you have transcription, if you have that data, right, that's an opportunity to automate and streamline that capability and save enormous amounts of time of someone's day-to-day portion of that. And we're seeing that all over the world in that piece of it, especially with social care and social workers. It's some of the most overworked job classification around the world, and how do we optimize them so they can do their job a lot more effectively and efficiently on that piece of it. The AI-driven insights, we'll talk a little bit about, how do you harmonize all your data? Every government has just terabytes and petabytes of data on these different isolated systems. How we can start connecting those dots, start using that data to inform decisions of elected officials, department heads, and really improve the function and performance of that government agency and that cross-agency collaboration. Whether you're doing tourism, whether you're doing investigations, whether whatever it is, like that ability to share information regionally and nationally is really critical at this point. So with that, Mike Maksman, I'm going to invite you up on stage. We're going to hear a little bit about some of the really cool things that he's been driving for the city and county of San Francisco. So, sir, I'm going to bring... So let's start with just a quick introduction of yourself, what you do for the city and the county, and some of the projects you've been working on.
Thanks, Kirk. Good morning, everybody. Hope you're enjoying this rainy weather in San Francisco. We're supposed to have some more sun, and you can see maybe a little bit of San Francisco, partake in wonderful, diverse food options, and just enjoy everything that San Francisco offers. I serve as the CIO for San Francisco. I lead a team that does everything that IT, you can imagine, does. We manage the fiber underground and the social media for the mayor, and everything in between. This is an amazing place with a lot of responsibility. We have close to 34,000 employees in the city. We fly planes, including the SFO. Hope everybody had a great experience this week flying in. We have the best water in the country. It comes from the mountains in 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗃𝗃. I don't know if you've had a chance to take our public transportation and enjoy everything else that the city gets to offer. And of course, we have amazing law enforcement officers and social service folks, including we operate probably one of the largest trauma centers on the West Coast, the Zuckerberg General Hospital. Yeah. So everything in between.
Awesome. So the last couple of years, we've seen this acceleration of technology, but you guys have been at the hub of this for decades, right? And so walk us through kind of the vision you saw as things evolve over the last few years and where you saw utility in that for your mission with the city and the county.
Yeah. It has been a journey in this home of AI, right? I think a lot of folks claim AI in their location. This truly is the home of AI. All the big companies that are driving our world in AI have chosen to be here, have recently signed the leases or increased their leases to be here because they feel the energy. They feel the vitality that is in the city. They know they can talk. And in fact, sometimes, I walk into a coffee shop near my office and I hear scheduled conversations about AI. Not something that you would hear in many other places. And it's been a journey for us, as governments, and especially as a government here in San Francisco. We've got a lot of folks who are looking to us and saying, what are you doing in San Francisco? You are one of the larger governments in the country. You are the home of AI. How are you thinking about AI, and what are you doing about AI? And we've got lots of different stories, but I want to talk to you today about our partnership with Microsoft. And that really has been an amazing partnership. We, of course, are a major Microsoft customer and partner with Office and email and collaboration tools. Have really seen an uptick of all the collaboration features during COVID when we had to make sure that people can work, when 30,000 plus people had to be able to deliver the services to this amazing place. And so we've been looking and partnering with Microsoft to be one of their, I would say, leading partners in the local government space to know how do we bring AI to our staff, right? There's, you've talked about time saving. We've ran a pilot about a year or so ago, one of the first pilots in the nations with a large AI company. We had about 2,000 people participating. We've seen that 75% saved at least 5 hours a week. Wow. Many more saved more time that week, right? It's self-reported time, but it's really meaningful. We've heard nurses that say, I don't have to do as much paperwork. We had social workers say, I can be back in the field serving folks. Administrative folks, policy folks saying, I can do some things that I wasn't be able to do before. And that time could be invested in doing more higher level of work when some of the regular work can be done with AI. So we've been on the brink to really embrace AI, and we've been waiting for that partnership with Microsoft, which we're able to do because Microsoft brought Copilot Chat to our tenancy in July. A big deal. One of the first 5 in the world, local governments, to roll out Copilot Chat. 30,000 staff members were able to get in their hands ability to do AI. Enormous preparation. Microsoft and us, we knew this wasn't going to be just another rollout. So for months before, we were planning. We're looking at every option, including security. We've turned on web grounding for a lot of folks because we wanted the best experience of AI. This was going to be the first experience for a lot of our folks. And we wanted for them to have the best AI with the best experience from the get-go. And that's what they got because we were partnering with Microsoft. For weeks after, Microsoft came in and they did daily trainings. Yeah. We had thousands of people go through them. And now we're continuing those trainings and we continue building communities of interest.
Awesome. With that rollout, no, not easy, right? So what were maybe a few key lessons learned from early days, and how's that carried on to now as a maturation and the adoption of this capability?
Yeah. Well, one of the first things that we've learned is that how many people were using AI to do work, but were limited because they didn't have an approved tool. We spent a lot of time to make sure that sensitive data could be used with Copilot Chat in terms of vetting all of the security with Microsoft. So a lot of people gave us feedback pretty much right away. We love that we can now, we've been trying this on the side for our job, but we didn't feel comfortable with our more sensitive documents, right? So now they could, right? We've got, of course, PHI, in healthcare, we've got all kinds of other documents. Now, AI could be brought for those documents. We did a lot of training, but even with that, the early tools, some people were excited, and we've got a good core of folks, close to 1,000 people who are full on. A lot of folks could have tried it and said, okay, I just got to figure out how to use it. So the response from folks were like, well, how do I use it in my job? I deal with Excel spreadsheets every day. How is this going to help me, right? I write memos every day. I'm in the field with my iPad. How is this going to help me? So we're focusing now a lot of our training from general training to job-specific, role-specific. And then we also found some limitations. And we were an early adopter, so we knew that we we're going to face some limitations. And it was a great partnership with Microsoft. One of the things that we're proud of, and a lot of our local government friends have benefited, is that we've proved this product on 30,000 folks, and we've figured something out. And Microsoft was wonderful. One of the kind of great stories is that initially there was a limitation on number of files per person that we could upload. It was 1 or 2 files per person, right? And we said to Microsoft, come on. We have people who are basically, that's their whole business, is they're working with documents. So incredible for this large company to turn around so quickly. Within a couple of weeks, they changed the whole licensing model to a tenancy-based number of documents. Now, so now our documents are not counted against people, they count against everyone. So we've got people who upload hundreds of documents a day, and that's totally fine because we've got lots of others who don't upload any for a couple of weeks, right? And that was an incredible kind of partnership that I really appreciated, that it seems a new energy with Microsoft where we can bring in this massive product some great feedback, because we do have great feedback to bring to Microsoft, and they turn around and with speed and consistency and ensuring that all the security safeguards are in place, they turn around and make it better.
Which I think is a great point, because I love the fact that, City of San Francisco, your peers around the world, like the feedback we get from our customers, it's common, right? And you guys are non-competitive with other cities. So I love the ability of that agility of Microsoft. And really, when Satya took over the CEO 11 plus years ago, that was a cornerstone of how can we be responsive. It's more and more critical now with agentic AI on that piece of it. So maybe I know we're close on time, but maybe for me, like for you with this big role, like define success, like near term and longer term. Like where do you see it 6 months from now?
Yeah.
And then 2 years from now? And how would you view that for the responsibility for the millions of people that live and come and visit San Francisco?
That's a great question, Kirk. In fact, 6 months from now is probably already in the books for me. Because if I wanted to impact something 6 months from now, I had to start about a year ago. So the way I'm thinking about it is, what are we going to see 2, 3 years from now? Because we've got to start planning now. If we haven't done that, if we haven't done the rollouts, if we haven't put the right tools and the right folks to learn from them, right? To learn from our staff, there's no better way to learn about AI. There's no playbook.
Yep.
So learning from our staff. That's why we were so focused on getting the tools into the hands of our staff early, so we learned how to do it. We've got a number of pilots going on at the same time, but where I see 3 years is, what I'm thinking right now is, how will this impact the way we hire, the way we retain, the way we train our staff, right? We've got people in all kinds of fields. I want to make sure that we prepare for the workforce of the future, that we've got the right tools for them, that we've got the right interactions with our residents, who are often very knowledgeable about AI, and they demand a lot from us, but also we have communities who are vulnerable, and the AI needs to be done equitably, responsibly. So we always balance the pressure of going fast with the obligation, the duty for us to do it right, because we don't have, we can't just leave somebody behind. And that's where I'm focused on, how do we bring the whole city in to use AI together with us in partnership, and how do I make sure that our staff is ready? And then when somebody new, kind of a new grad is looking for a great place to land, when they think about, hey, I want to dedicate myself to a career of service like you and I have done, Kirk, that they come into this place and they're excited because this place is ready for them with the great tools of AI.
Yeah, that's awesome. Before I let you go, maybe just one morsel of advice for those in the room and those watching online when you think about AI and the approach to that.
Yeah, I think of AI in using AI is learning to play guitar. Some of you might have done that. I mean, you can read about it. You can watch videos about it, right? You can go see a great concert and appreciate it, but you will not be able to play guitar until you pick it up and you start strumming. And that's the way that I've approached the work with my teams, with the goals of every team member in IT to start using AI in whatever way that makes sense for them. And that's what we're approaching with our staff, is that, training, wonderful. Videos, wonderful. Getting the stuff in their hands that they're excited to have is the only thing that really matters.
Man, that's an awesome analogy. I'm going to use it.
Thanks,
You didn't copyright it. Mike, thank you, sir. Awesome. Thank you. So from a citizen engagement standpoint, and Mike, that was awesome, right? And just thinking about that piece of it. So that personalization of programs and how we're going to, every government's going to think about those things. Citizens are on this journey, right? You got to bring them along, the transparency, the trust, your staff, right? And Mike just mentioned that portion of it too, is they're going to use these tools. You got to make it available to them. There's no malfeasance. They're not trying to do something nefarious. They're just trying to do their job better. It's incumbent upon leadership to make sure they have those right tools and capabilities to do that. I think that equitable access to technology and government services, especially for like the indigent or people in crisis, like that is a key thing because it can oftentimes be life and death for them. So that opportunity for technology to help facilitate and help connect people to the right services at the right time is really core to that portion of it. And that streamlining those processes is key on that piece of it. I'm going to play a short video out of India. ADT is the agricultural development portion with India, and how does technology help micro farmers and improve technology? Because listen, drought leads to famine, famine leads to malnutrition, malnutrition leads to poor student performance in schools, right? That has a cascading effect and impact on these things. So I thought this was just a good example of showcasing how Microsoft with government entities, our technology at the edge are helping solve some things. So let's play this video.
In India, we are producing some of the major crops in large quantity like sugarcane, wheat, rice, pulses, and cotton. But when we compare our yield with the other developed countries, it is too low. Soil erosion is the major problem in India today because of overuse of pesticides and fertilizer.
आणि नेमकं आपला उन्हाळ्यामध्ये पाण्याची कमतरता पडते. त्याच्यामुळे आणि उत्पन्न कमी झालेलं आहे.
ADT Baramati is working for the agriculture community. For more than 5 decades, this trust was started to uplift the farmers who were very poor, had no resources. Through this, we have changed the life of millions of farmers.
AgriPilot.ai allows farmers to avoid guesswork and use science to give the ground truth to make the right decisions and make them successful.
In this project, we have selected 1,000 progressive farmers from across the Maharashtra. We have installed weather stations, sensors in the soil, and provided satellite support to all the farmers. We are collecting real-time data from the soil every day.
AgriPilot.ai uses Microsoft Azure Data Manager for agriculture for making the decisions. It's running more than 20 plus algorithms that can lead to accurate results based on the historical pattern. Azure OpenAI allows the farmer to ask the questions in local languages, which can be delivered on their WhatsApp.
They are precisely using irrigation, fertigation, and pesticide practices in their farm.
म्हणजे पिकात डायरेक्ट आपल्याला लगेचच लक्षात येतं. पीक तर अगदी जोमानं आलेलं आहे. फुटव्यांची संख्या पण वाढलेली आहे आणि ह्याची रोपांची म्हणजे उंची पण वाढलेली आहे. तर माझ्या पूर्ण क्षेत्रावरती मी अशा पद्धतीनं ऊसाचं पीक लावण्याचा ठरवलेला आहे की जेणेकरून माझा खर्च कमी होईल आणि उत्पन्न जास्त येईल.
So just perfect example, right? Better crop yield, more profits for micro farmers, but you're also delivering better food and stuff for the region and stuff. So I just thought that was a really cool example. So this reshaping of the government processes on that piece of it. Again, we're going to keep hammering down on this, automating the repetitive tasks and what that really fundamentally means on that piece of it. Even in the city of Buenos Aires, they have a chatbot called BOTI, B-O-T-I, and that handles 2 million interventions per month of citizens just calling, looking for some level of government service without human intervention, right? And so it's freeing up that staff to go focus on the more important tasks and that thing, a portion of it. The data unification, and we'll get when Andrew comes up here in a minute, talk about the importance of that. And really, when you think about the infrastructure of any urban environment and governments and what CCTV and traffic cameras and all these other sensors, like there's an awesome opportunity to have telemetry and insights in that capability, the protection of the data and the automated workflows. So before I have Andrew come up, I wanted to play a video just on permitting, right? And Microsoft, our energy industry team, just built some accelerators around this. Every government, so if it's in the residential context of permitting, those delays, if it's multi-year, right, that can lead to housing crisis. It can lead to inflated prices of homes and make affordability less available for people that are trying to become first-time homeowners. For energy, like every country is kind of struggling, including the United States, on power. How do we generate enough power for electrification of our vehicle fleets, for data centers, and for society as a whole as we adopt more technology? So we got to look at opportunities to kind of streamline the permitting process to kind of mitigate some of these things. And so we'll play just kind of a little promotional video about that. But for like atomic energy here in the US, it's about a 10-year process right now. And can we reduce that to maybe 1 or 2 years and get those things going? So just being thoughtful on that piece of it and what technology can do. So let's play this.
Vera is an environmental planner who creates permit applications for major infrastructure projects. Gabriel, an environmental engineer at a regulatory agency, is responsible for reviewing Vera's applications. Though essential, their work is caught in an infrastructure bottleneck, slowing progress toward a secure, resilient energy future. Today, permits can span thousands of pages, take a decade to complete, and cost hundreds of millions, making vital infrastructure projects difficult to develop and launch. The Microsoft GenAI for Energy Permitting Solution Accelerator addresses this bottleneck by using generative AI and intelligent agents to empower Vera and Gabriel with greater confidence, speed, and precision. For Vera, the accelerator unifies all relevant project information, from environmental and technical data to financial documentation and community agreements. Data is sourced, compiled, precisely formatted, and AI-driven reviews ensure comprehensive, consistent, and accurate end-to-end applications, aligned with historical permits and the latest regulatory standards. For Gabriel, the Accelerator quickly evaluates applications, instantly flagging missing, contradictory, or inaccurate details. The result? Thousands of hours saved, complex documents drafted in minutes, and pre-submission checks/review times, giving Vera and Gabriel the confidence in accuracy, consistency, and compliance, while cost-effectively accelerating critical project launches. From nuclear and renewables to mining, energy, transmission, and distribution, the Accelerator helps permitting and document-intensive industries meet market demands and speed project deployments. The Microsoft Gen AI for Energy Permitting Solution Accelerator runs on Azure, is available for customers and partners through free commercial licensing, and can be tailored for almost any permitting scenario. Discover how you and your organization can tackle some of the toughest energy infrastructure and permitting challenges. Visit aka.ms/energy-industry.
So, and that's, I just think a really simple example, and the video called it out at the end there, right? Like, this isn't just about energy. Any permitting process, bring this fidelity to it is awesome on that data unification. And even when agentic AI first came out, there was a city up in Canada, they really saw an opportunity, the CIO and his team, for this thing for housing delays. But the first thing they did is they actually went over to the director of permitting and asked them, hey, this is what we're thinking. And the initial response was, well, wait a minute, my team will be eliminated, like the fear of job loss and that piece of it. But that wasn't the case, right? This was an opportunity to work collectively with them to mitigate that backlog and deliver better services for the community and stuff. And so they worked collectively through that. And they've dramatically reduced from months down to weeks of the permitting process in that time, and that's been replicated in other parts across the nation there. So it's a really cool time for technology on that piece and having the utility. So Andrew, I'm going to invite you up for a little Q&A. So let's give him a round of applause, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Similar to Mike, introduce yourself to the audience and your role and some of the stuff that you're working on.
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew Hester. I'm the Director of Infrastructure and Operations for the City of Raleigh. My team is responsible for our data center, public-private cloud, the Microsoft estate, the fiber backbone network, and everything in between.
Awesome. And I know you've been here this week talking a lot about the work around GIS and some of the work that you guys have been driving around that fidelity. I'd love to have you share with the audience some of that engagement.
Yep, the City of Raleigh has been working on rolling out things like Copilot Chat and those agents, but what I really want to talk about this week is a smart city project that we did in partnership with our transportation department, where we're trying to use computer vision AI models to improve traffic flow and traffic optimization throughout the city.
Awesome. What was the brainchild of this project?
Yeah, so the context and the background for this effort is that the City of Raleigh is experienced explosive growth over the last 10 to 15 years. It's an amazing place to live, to work. We get a lot of accolades. Mike already claimed best water, so we're going to go with we have the best parks and greenways. We'd love for you to come check it out. You're personally invited. But with a lot of growth comes traffic congestion. And our citizens, we do a citizen survey every 2 years, and we ask them kind of what are their main issues and pain points, and where can we be leveraging city resources, and they consistently rank traffic frustration with congestion as one of those top issues. So I reached out to the transportation department. We said, hey, how can we team up? How can we use technology to maybe resolve some of these issues or mitigate them in some way? And what we found is that the systems and the tools that they were using, they were not real time, and there was kind of a lag between getting those insights and then trying to figure out how to make adjustments. So we have built a solution with 3 kind of major components as those building blocks. First is we use NVIDIA deep stream technology. So we can pipe that video camera feed through the AI models so that it can begin to do object detection, tracking, lane utilization, things of that nature. And then we are aggregating that information into our digital twin for the City of Raleigh, powered by Esri's ArcGIS platform. So we've got a fully interactive 3D model of the city, so we can overlay those insights on top of that. And then all of this is being powered by the Azure cloud, because we needed a place where we could start down this path and this journey with kind of minimal risk. We didn't have to invest in a ton of hardware. We could begin to kind of pipe everything into the Azure cloud because this concept as a smart city project, we weren't sure if we'd be successful or if we could kind of ramp it up. But if we were successful, we'd need to go from a very small pilot to a massive scale. And the Azure cloud is what kind of gave us that capability. So those are the main building blocks.
Nice. And what was, as that project kicked off, like, what were some of the intended goals, near term and long term?
So a near-term goal was, again, trying to keep the human in the loop with the AI, but giving the traffic management, the traffic control team, those real-time insights on how well is traffic moving through the city and what can we do to adjust signal timing and things of that nature to help improve the flow. Long-term benefits, again, I think I'm dreaming big dreams. I'd love to get to a place where we've kind of baselined what normal looks like for the city, and then we can use that digital twin to run a whole bunch of different simulations, or potentially even model what future roadway design projects would look like, and try to see what those impacts might have, so that decision makers can have the best data to make the right moves.
Yeah, and from I'll say both quantitative and qualitative perspective, like, what's been the outcome so far?
The outcome so far has just been a lot of, real excitement to see AI working well and getting that immediate feedback from that traffic management team to see how quickly and rapidly we can reduce that time for the traffic studies. What would have required a team to go out, process things in the field, or capture data and send it off and wait for it to come back. Having that more readily available has just kind of helped everybody get excited about wanting to do more with this project. And again, we're only kind of applying it right now at the traffic camera, but we feel like there's a lot of opportunity. We have tons of other cameras in buildings, on buses, on garbage collection trucks, and so if we could ever get to a place where we're able to see in motion some of that and plot it onto that digital twin, then we could really, I think, expand this whole computer vision platform to something really exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome. Leveraging existing infrastructure that you have and just adding some smarts to it on that piece of it. I mentioned earlier I was in Barcelona a couple weeks ago at Smart Cities, and Esri was there showcasing exactly what you've been doing in Raleigh. And it was really interesting for me. A lot of European countries, they're trying to solve for the same things that you guys are doing. And again, back to my early comment about that cross-pollination of ideas and governments working collectively, and there's a common theme there. So on that piece of it, from a best practices, what would be some advice you would give to your colleagues, both domestically and overseas, when you think about a project of this nature?
So best practices, lessons learned for us. Don't expect the model to work well day one or right out of the gate. It certainly requires a passion and a kind of a labor of love from the teammates, but we found that we had a really great success when we leaned into this with our partner network, with Microsoft, Esri, NVIDIA, when we really kind of came to the table and said, hey, we think we're onto something here. We're really excited about it. The team's excited. How can we team up together? So again, leverage your partner network. That would be my biggest recommendation. And then try to get something, even if it is a little rough around the edges, out the door pretty quickly. Get it in front of those end users, start to get feedback, because they'll come up with ideas or things that you didn't think about that can be really helpful as you work to iterate and refine. And the last thing I'll say is the user interface is kind of a make or break. These are really advanced, complex AI models and tools behind the scenes, and a lot of our staff and end users are not passionate about the tech. They want those insights, and they want to make decisions based off of it. So really think through how you want to present it back to them in a way that's really accessible.
Yeah, they just want it to work, right? So
Indeed. We've got a demo of this. It's fun to talk about, but it's even more impressive when you see it in person. We're at the NVIDIA booth if you want to come check us out. And we'll also present this afternoon at the industry showcase.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Very good. Thank you. I'm going to go really fast just because I actually want to have Mike and Andrew come back up, because I'd love to have some Q&A with you guys, with them, and not just listen to me. They're bending the curve on innovation, right? Like, think about technology differently to help, not from a reactionary perspective, but how do we be more proactive in dictating some of these outcomes. So it's really cool. I'm going to blast through these things. Listen, kind of that, for us as a company, right, we have there's over 11,000 models, right, on AI Foundry, right? We obviously have our Copilot, our capabilities, and our Office products, and that piece of it. Like, we are all in on this technology, and you heard some of the agility we have as a company. We're listening, we're learning. We want that feedback. We all work collectively, shoulder to shoulder on projects, because that's how we listen and learn on these capabilities. That platform capability, the investments we make on that portion of it, the developer tools for those that are here are technical on that piece of it. Again, and that unification across that data. One, mitigate some of your cybersecurity threats, some of the blind spots that you might have on telemetry on that portion of it, harmonizing that, but then just the data unification and capabilities, the tools and the skilling to streamline these processes and make them far more efficient. And then, end of the day, you heard me talk earlier about just security, right? I'm all in on what we do for security, the all-up level and that piece of it. And if we need to, whether we're talking about data sovereignty, data residency, if you have customers or if you're a customer with air gap needs, let's have those conversations offline and work through those things because it's just a massive investment for us as a company. So we have about 4.5 minutes. Gentlemen, I would love to have you two come back up here. We have a question in the back, or you have a microphone in the back. Any questions for Mike or Andrew? Please don't be shy. We got a question up here in the front. Good. Yeah, don't worry.
So, Andrew, first, howdy, neighbor. I'm from Norfolk, Virginia.
Awesome.
So, we've got a lot of projects that are around, like wastewater, stormwater, around flooding. But there's some challenges, I would say, about generating buy-in and interest within kind of the local organization. What were some sort of success stories that you had about generating interest amongst your colleagues and cohorts to push this project through?
That's an excellent question. And I would say, I think the biggest thing that kind of helped generate interest and buy-in was us kind of getting a fledgling model kind of up and running where you could at least have something to show back and build confidence that it is something that's actually achievable. Like when it was all kind of just talk and theory, it was a little bit too risky, but when we were actually kind of said, hey, like we have something here, it needs work and it needs refinement, we get that, but like we're showing you the art of the possible and it really is achievable. That's when we started to see people say, okay, now we're willing to kind of lean a little bit more, give you more access to data or teammates from their side that might be willing to spend some time on it. So,
thank you very much.
Yeah.
Cool. Any other questions? In the back there, Adam. Getting your steps in, Adam. It's good.
Good afternoon, Andrew. Hi, neighbor.
Hey, hey.
Wow.
From Durham, North Carolina.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, I work with the county. So this is for either one of you. One of the things we're finding as we're beginning this journey, we just have tons of legacy data out there that's unclassified and labeled, and just the entire problem of data before we unleash AI into the environment. And I'd be curious to know how you guys sort of solved that. How long did it take? What kind of buy-in did you get? And, as you started your journey.
Maybe Mike first, and then.
Yeah, I'll go first.
I mean, I've been in IT for many decades, and data has always been our challenge, right? AI is putting a real cost to not having data that you can actually then use. And so it really, for us, it kicked in high gear our data governance and data management efforts and creating data sets and creating products. So we're starting to think about kind of, in our chief data officer talks about this, last talking about data, but talking about products like AI models that could be reused by multiple departments, multiple agencies within the city and the county. And that's really kind of getting the excitement, because there's not a lot of excitement in business about doing data management and data governance. And maybe your folks are a little more advanced. Ours want results, right? And so when we start talking about products that they can get into their hands, insights that they're going to be able to see, that they've never been able to see, then we start generating that excitement in our business folks to do the hard work of bringing the data, managing the data, cleaning the data, and preparing the data.
On the city side, I'll just say that with respect to kind of like rolling out Copilot, we've had a lot of success working with our Microsoft support team and their blueprint for how to run some of those like oversharing reports and other things for just the readiness effort. And it's some legwork, but it's worth doing. So I highly recommend knocking that out.
Yeah, and even for us, Customer Zero, right? Like when we first rolled this out internally for us as a company, that governance is a huge piece, because things that you aren't classified correctly, they're discoverable, right? And you got to understand that piece of it. And that, again, I'll keep harping on the public-private partnership piece of that and some of the automation tools to do that piece for sure. Maybe time for one more question. Yep. Oh, we got two. We'll squeeze two in. Let's do it.
Real quick, I was wondering, you were talking about the documents per user, switching that to tenancy. Is that now a standard for Microsoft, or is that something you would negotiate on a one-off?
Good question. It's a standard now for Microsoft. Microsoft rolled it out and changed their licensing model for every local government and every government partner that they've had based on our feedback. So we're really appreciative, and that's pretty amazing kind of flexibility we've seen.
Last question.
Good morning. Not a neighbor from Holland. I was wondering, we always have the battle, where you put the compliancy for AI. In Holland, we see it very much, with the privacy officer or with the CISO. How did you solve it? Do you have an AI officer or something?
So for the city of Raleigh, it's a fantastic question. Currently, it's with our CISO for our structure, but I'd say it kind of results may vary based on different organizations.
We do have a director of emerging technologies, because AI is just one of many emerging technologies. We talked about video and everything else, who is in charge of having that conversation. But yes, I think it's more than just privacy and security. There's a huge equity component. There's a huge responsibility component. So we had to pull together our workforce, human resources folks. We've got privacy, we've got security, we've got legal, of course, as well. But and actually start thinking about it differently. Environment is a big question, and so we're working very closely with Microsoft in our environment folks to really understand the cost. One of the first questions we had is how much energy and water does this query actually contain, right? And so there's been interesting partnership and conversation with Microsoft. They're coming out with some kind of answer for us, but that's a big. So I think you have to really look at all of those dimensions and start that conversations. Better to have all the people around the table. But yes, we've had to do a lot around security, right? And I think it's changing now. About 2 years ago, it was all about kind of cybersecurity attacks, which have been proven, right? In data loss, which are still really important. But now we're starting to think about well, if we let this model make this decision, right? How could it be subverted, right? Or used inequitably? Or how do we know? So we've actually putting together what we call a penetration testing framework, but we're using the cyber term penetration testing, but also looking at equity, results, and value. We've taken this to be a standard that we're rolling out to all the AI products, is that we bring partners from academia, UC Berkeley, Stanford. We bring partners from our Department of Environment and legal team, so that when we talk about penetration, we're going way beyond privacy and security. We're talking about everybody who has a stake in this model, so we can test it.
Yeah, and maybe just round out on that. For us as a company, we have our Office of Responsible AI. I know we're out of time yet. I'm getting the hook here, but huge investments on that piece, the unintended consequences and everything that Mike and Andrew touched on that piece of it. So we're way over, which is awesome. If you want to take a scan of these things for your next steps and next journeys, but I really want to thank Mike and Andrew for your time here. This has been awesome, so thank you.